Hi, we're here today with our newest Arizona drag racing legend, Buddy Sampson. I would say newest legend. It's really not quite the case. Buddy's been a legend in Arizona for many years. He's the winner of the NHRA Nationals Top Eliminator category in 1957 in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Correct.
And that was, that's a huge deal, and that's not the whole story. What we're here to today to talk to Buddy today and hear about his passion for racing, how he got started, and the great stories of the people he met along the way. So, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Well, glad to have you here. So, 1957 wasn't when you started racing. First of all, how long you lived in Arizona? How long have you been here?
We got here in 1946, right after the Second World War. And there wasn't much in Arizona in those days. 16th Street on the east side was the city limits. The west side was the Capitol building. And I think it was Jefferson south and Roosevelt north. So it was a very small city. We were at 17th Street in Van Buren, had an old house there. And that's where we got there, came in and started a business. Actually, we were going to go, my dad was going to go into the real estate business, and when we got here, it didn't work. So we had a trailer, an old trailer that we brought from Michigan with us. And in Detroit in those days, they were building trailers like crazy and selling them. Well, you couldn't get any metal, you couldn't get any wood because it was right after the war. So we'd go to the junkyard and get a front end out of an old car, line it up, weld it together, and that was how we got an axle. And then to get wood, you had unshaved wood. It was just old wood that you could pick up anywhere to put a wood body on it. And you had no steel, so we went to the junkyards and picked up steel bed frames, and that was the frame of the trailer. And that's how we started in the business. And that was called Rental City. It was called Sampson Equipment. And then later on in years, we got Rental City. But during those times, I got an old Ford pickup. I don't know what year it was, but it was one of those straight back Ford pickups. And it ran pretty good. So I'd fool around in the neighborhood and I could beat just about anybody off the line. And a lot of street racing then, but there was nobody around, so it didn't make any difference. Police weren't bothering you. So I got done with that, picked up a Chevy, like a 40 Chevy coupe. And naturally that was my main car too. Well, I put some carburetors on that. It was a 6-cylinder. Put some carburetors on that thing. And for the first 100 yards, nobody could beat me. I mean, that thing would run like a striped, you know what. And but then it was done. You couldn't go anywhere after that. So that was a Chevy. Then going along in years, got up into the 50s, and the Bean Bandits were running in San Diego. That was a Mexican team that had a dragster. So I bought this old dragster from the Bean Bandits. Had a flathead Ford in it. So Johnny Essex Garage rebuilt the motor for me, and we did real well with that dragster, the little flathead. And then Joe Dillon and Lefty Mutisbaugh came around. Well, when they got here, then it looked like we might be able to do some good. So we built a brand new dragster to take to Oklahoma City, and it was built in 21 days from scratch. Now, when Joe came along, he also brought him a motor, and the Oldsmobile motor that we put in. Well, the first time we put that motor in the car, the old car, and went out to the drag strip here in Phoenix, we broke the world record.
The first time out.
The first time out.
And that would have been in 56, 55?
Oh, I really, I'm not sure of the years in that, but it was.
What drag strip was it then?
There was a drag strip out west of Phoenix, And so that's where we were going in those days. And then finally, we ended up with the one on the way to Tucson.
So was that Perryville back then, or?
Perryville.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
it was Perryville. Now you got to help me out on some of those because this old mine.
We'll help each other out along the way here. Don't worry about it.
The mine doesn't work very well. But so when Joe came along and we broke the record right away, then we went to California to the Mickey Thompson strips. Well, for some reason or other, Mickey Thompson took a liking to me, and he and his wife, and we had a pretty good time. Naturally, Mickey's been gone a long time, but we got over there and ran at his strip, and we broke the record there, and so we set the record at 141 miles an hour, I think. Can't even think of the name of the Mickey Thompson strip, but it was. He had a couple of different strips, but that was the main one, and we went there all the time.
There was quite a few of them in Southern California, so
Yes,
could have been
there were.
Fontana or something like that, or
Oh, it was Lads.
okay,
Yeah, the Lads strip there.
okay,
I think it was outside of Riverside.
okay.
So we ran there, and we went to California several times, and each time we went over there. Now that car that we had, and it's funny because I never got in a race with that car that I got beat. If it was a car that was something that I was supposed to race with. I did race with Red Greth one time in his car, and he beat me. But I wasn't supposed to be racing him anyway. They had a vehicle that was completely different. So that drag show that we had and we ran in 1957 naturally was all hand built, crazy stuff put in it, the way it was put together. And we never got beat with it.
And that was the Money Olds car?
The Money Olds car. So then after that, the win in Oklahoma.
Well, that's a big deal. Let's talk about it. And so you built the car because you wanted to go race with the big boys
Exactly.
in Oklahoma. And who were the guys in the class back then? You remember any of the names of?
No,
Okay.
I couldn't tell you any of the names, but I'm sure that the record books have got
Sure.
it.
But you wanted your name in the record book.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
Okay.
In those days, we just wanted to win. So with that, like I say, with that car, it was just, you get in it and go out there and put it on the track, and we won. But the one thing about that vehicle, off from the line, we were never, I might be first off the line, but for the first 30 feet out there, the other car is going to beat me. So then it's always one of these situations. They're there and they're saying, oh no. And then here I come.
You drove around it.
And when we get to the other end, I'm always ahead. And I
So-
was always looking back.
This is 1957.
Yeah.
You
Won the Nationals.
won the U.S. Nationals in Oklahoma City, and being it was a big event, it probably paid a lot of money and prestige. What was the purse back then?
Oh yeah, that was really great. I got a wash machine for my wife. I was supposed to get a Chevrolet motor. We never got the Chevrolet motor. And got a couple trophies. That was it.
So basically, any race still owes you a Chevrolet motor.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, come on.
And well, the wash machine was something too, because, you know, in those days, not everybody had a nice automatic wash machine. So we're thinking in a completely different range of things now.
So this is still since '57. So it's before the houses were just becoming more modernized, but not everybody had all the conveniences and the modern convenience. So it was a luxury.
Without a doubt. It was a nice electric wash machine that, not the old one, with you almost had to use it by hand. So those were the situations there. So that was the Oldsmobile vehicle that we won the races in. And that's what kind of put us on the map and had a lot of fun with that, and ran it for quite some time. And then the guys decided that I was getting too much notoriety because I was in the newspaper all the time, I was on the radio, I even got a television spot. And so, let's face it, they were jealous. And I was always mentioning them and trying to bring them with them. But it didn't work that way, they just wanted me, so it worked that way. And so they took the car and bought it away from me. And Lefty then moved to California. And later, a few years later, he was trying to race the car, and he never could win with the vehicle because the car was built for me. Everything. I weighed 127 pounds, I think, in those days. And I'm
dripping wet.
Yeah, 6 foot tall. You know, t-shirt.
Yeah. You're still, by the way, you're still in great shape. I mean, you really are. So,
well,
you're very proud of yourself.
I'm 87 years old and I'm still walking, but I'm not driving anymore. But so then Lefty went out and was racing, and he ran off the end of a strip in California, and he got killed, and that was the end of that dragster. He got killed in the car, so that was the end of it.
Unfortunate end.
For Lefty and the vehicle also.
Yeah, the vehicle also. So
yeah. Basically,
the old adage goes, you can't be a hero in your own hometown because, you know, there are a lot of egos and people want to be, they want that. So they bought the car away from you or out from underneath you.
Right.
So did you continue racing from that point, or what did you do?
No, I stopped doing anything with the races then because it bruised my ego too that these guys wanted to go off on their own, and me as a driver, so I put all my efforts into trying to make a little money, and the company was Rental City, and I bought another company in Mesa, Arizona, and it was Valley Rentals. Now at Valley Rentals, after I was there for a little while, I came across a dragster. One of the guys there decided that maybe we ought to have a dragster. So we bought a dragster. Well, this dragster, it was called Gold Rush. And we never could win a race with it, but we decided to show it on the car circuit. And the Gold Rush dragster won the World of Wheels here in Phoenix, the World of Wheels in Tucson, and the World of Wheels in Las Vegas. And so that dragster was something that was a lot of fun to show.
I remember that car. That was a beautiful car, and the uniqueness of it. That was in the mid '80s or so.
Yes, it was probably '82, '83.
So the uniqueness of that car is that it was a fast bracket car.
Yeah.
And you went how fast and how quick in that car?
I think probably the fastest was like 181 something, almost 182. I always wanted to go 200, but it never made it that far. And so, you know, after a while I got tired of showing it and couldn't win a race with it. And I was always used to winning, and I couldn't take that, so we got rid of the car and sold it.
You got spoiled. I mean, you had a lot of success in your day. And, yeah, so yeah. It was a very beautiful car, and you had some great sponsorships on it, and people, you know, stepped up to help you with the car.
Yeah, and it was called Gold Rush.
Yep.
And if you'd have seen it in a show, we'd have the car displayed. We had some, they looked like gold bricks, but they were actually lead, and we painted them. And then we had a mannequin that we stood back into the, well, the booths were usually pretty good size, so we had a mannequin with full race gear on. And so he was standing there with the car and the gold and the signs and things of that nature. And we had a lot of fun with that.
So with that car, you raced it locally when you did race it at what, Phoenix Dragway and Beeline, or?
Raced it at Beeline mostly. And like I say, it was a bracket. And so you chose what you were going to run, but we always went over what I chose. And
well, speaking firsthand, in my days, we were never good bracket racers. We had to build a comp car, so we didn't get penalized for running too quick. So I know exactly, you want to run all the way out the back door. That's what a race car is all about.
Right.
So in your time here, you've seen several drag strips come and go, and do you have any favorite racetracks you used to race at here or in California that you like, used to?
Well, the Mickey Thompson strip in California was always fun. But then you had to remember too that these strips didn't have good shutdown areas. And the one time I lost the brakes at Mickey Thompson strip, so what do? I get down there, get into the weeds, and when I'm out there in the weeds, I just crank the wheel and hit the brake, and it spun it out in the weeds. And here they come to get you. So I've had several of those deals where they've sent the ambulance after me, but knock on wood, I've never really got hurt in any of the racing that I did, and I did quite a bit of it. So it was always a fun situation. And as long as it was fun, you did it. But when it gets to be a real situation where it's hard to lose all the time. So
Right.
When you did that, but we didn't lose all the time because we won with the other dragster too.
So back in the in the 50s, you're running the safety equipment wasn't what it was in the 80s when you went racing again. You probably had more in your helmet than you had in your whole safety equipment deal back in the 50s.
Well, let me give you just one little idea. When we went to Mickey Thompson Strip, you were supposed to have some kind of a lock on your wheels so that if you broke an axle or something, it wouldn't come out. You wouldn't lose a wheel into the crowd. So all we had was a tube axle, and that ran right through the differential, and everything was welded onto that. Well, there's no way in heck that it's going to come off. So Mickey even said, well, put a long bar through there and put a piece on each end and put a nut on each end. So that's what we had. We had a single rod completely through the axle with a nut on each end to hold the wheels on, which was a kind of a ridiculous deal, but it worked, and he was happy with it, and it was good for us.
So what other do you about the car? I mean, it had to be real, had the notoriety of that car with people knowing you were running 141 were big numbers back then, and what people probably looked at, probably suspected maybe you were doing something that you weren't doing. It's like you can't be doing that with an Oldsmobile motor going that quick. What's the deal with this?
Didn't have so much of that, but we did have some people that were quite well known for racing in California, and if we pulled in there at one time at Ladd's, and a couple of the guys, they just said, so they went to another strip. They didn't even wait, they just left and went to another strip, and they won at the other strips, so that was good.
So it was kind of like a deal in the later years with the rain for rent car would find, when they would go down through the grapevine, the people would be sitting in the grapevine looking for the car, which road it turned off, and they'd call ahead and say, well, go to this racetrack instead of that racetrack.
Yeah,
people avoided you.
Yeah, because we're going to be there.
Right.
It was kind of funny, but it was good too. Made you feel good. But naturally, besides that, we had jobs, and well, there was a time in my life that I went. I don't know, I think it was 7 years with 3 days a year off, because we were open 7 days a week. And we closed for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's.
Well, Valley Reynolds was a big operation.
Well, Valley Reynolds was in Mesa, but the main one that we had, that myself and my family had, was either Rental City or Sampson Equipment.
I remember the names.
Yeah.
I really do. That's you. That was you and your family. Wow.
Yeah, that was us.
So you're just not another pretty face. You actually have, you had something, and brought the money in to do that with.
Half of the stuff on Van Buren at that time was built with our equipment. There were hotels and things that was there. We rented them equipment, and they built different things. And as years went on, we got into different things naturally. And we had homeowner, a lot of homeowners' equipment. And if you wanted to have a party, we had all the tables and chairs and dishes and fountains.
So if it was happening back then, anything big happening, parties, whatever, you knew about it ahead of time.
We kind of had the stuff that we could rent and take care of the party.
So, you showed the car into the 80s. You sold the Gold Rush car.
Yeah, the Gold Rush car came along in the 80s. Naturally, the Money Olds car is the one that we had all the notoriety
Right.
with. And that's what we brought back to Arizona. So that's with the first, actually that was the first dragster or the first person in Arizona that really won anything. And then naturally Red Greth and Lyle Fisher out of Tucson, those guys started doing good with their vehicle. And so that was another thing, that was the next guys that started getting some notoriety.
So, being a diehard Arizona guy like I am, was it fun to beat the California guys?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
It was always fun to beat the California guys.
They look at you like, how are you doing this? You're not from here.
The California guys really had their nose up. And when we went over there and beat them, they didn't like it at all. And especially even with that old Bean Bandit car out of San Diego, if you'd have seen that, that was something else. The roll bar was 6 inches above my waist. So, you know, you're sitting in that vehicle, getting ready to race, and the whole top of your body is exposed. So if you ever turned it over, you're dead. You're going to be cut in two.
The Bean Bandit was they're a very famous team out of San Diego area, I believe, or
Yeah, the Bean Bandits over there in California.
yeah, they're very. But you had one of their
One of
spin-off
their
cars,
Yeah, one of their cast
and
offs.
that was a flathead Ford.
Flathead Ford.
And so, from going to driving your Chevy Coupe to getting in that car, was that the first real fast car you ever sat in?
That was the first dragster we had. I ran an old Ford pickup on the track, and I had a 34 Coupe that I ran on the track
Okay.
also. But they were just, you know, street vehicles, old street vehicles. But we did quite well with them. We had a lot of fun. But then when we got that dragster, that's when things started changing.
Was there like a whole different world to you, than sitting down low in the car and, to the ground relative to a body car and all that?
Yeah, you sit in the Money Olds car, in behind everything that was in front of you naturally, and it was completely different. You were down in a vehicle, you had to get in it, and it's so funny is, the car was built for me. Like I said, I weighed 127 pounds. So we had different guys get in that car. The only problem is they couldn't get out. You had to have somebody, get 2 people to try and get them out of the vehicle. Because the way I did, I just kind of slipped in it like this. And when I went to get out, I brought my legs up and put them on the axle and just pushed myself out. So I was kind of slipping right back out the same way I went in. I slipped in and slipped back out.
So some of the bigger guys that tried to sit in the car must have some weird look on their face when they couldn't get out.
Yeah, once they got in there, then they were stuck.
Yeah,
And it was almost like you'd have to take the car and turn it over and try and shake them out of the seat.
I'm one of those guys that have not sat in cars because I wasn't sure I could get out of a car. I know there's no way I could now get in that car.
You would have never gotten into the
Yeah,
car.
never, but not gotten in the car even to think about getting out of the car. So you have a passion for racing. You're busy. Definitely you had a passion for your business. You still follow drag racing?
When I kind of got out of it, it really went away from me for a long time, and I didn't go at all. And then I still have some friends that are racing cars. Nobody in the dragster fields, but they're racing different cars. And other than that, it's pretty much. And then with this COVID thing that's set up, I hadn't even been out of the house for 9 months. So it's a pretty dull life at the moment. But then again, at my age, I'm just glad to be here.
You're glad to be, just glad to be no matter what.
You
I'm all
know?
glad to be here.
The COVID thing, you've managed to get along through it. It shut our videotaping down for a few months. We definitely know what that was all about. Any other memories or anything that you like to, they're special to you that, like, you know, people you raced with, that, you know, back in the day that probably, who did you have a mentor that when you first started, you know, doing it, somebody that, was there anybody that you hung with or you looked at and said,
We really didn't, because everybody that knew anything were in other states.
okay,
Arizona just didn't really have anybody doing a dragster stuff when we were doing it.
so back in the 50s,
Yeah.
it was really, drag racing was still an infant sport here. It was
Yep.
developing, so you were one of the pace setters that really started
Yeah,
the drive forward.
yeah, the lopers and everything, naturally. Into it because they had the speed shop and then the Goosiks and the things of that nature. And so those cars were there, but you know, I didn't really do much with them because I was in something completely different. And then it was always a situation where you just jump up and go because you're always working. Everybody had to work, you know, so many hours just to get by in those days. So we were very fortunate to be able to stay in business as many years as we did.
Well, we're very fortunate to have you here, and we truly appreciate you taking the time to be here today. Your story is very special. You are definitely a member of the Arizona Drag Racing Hall of Fame, and you're definitely an Arizona drag racing legend. And we thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Well, I really appreciate this. It's something that, you know, you're proud of, and you like to pat yourself on the back once in a while. But
Buddy, we're proud of you.
if it wasn't for all of the people around, I wouldn't have been in that position.
We're definitely proud of you, and thank you
Okay.
for your contribution
All
to our
right,
state.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.